Welcome back, everybody, to the ATL Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Shepard. I'm joined today by Director of High Performance with Driveline Baseball, Daniel Comstock. It's our first strength and conditioning guy on the podcast. We're super excited to get into it. It's a little bit of change of speed. Being a youth travel organization, we thought it was super important to have somebody on that could talk about strength training, the difference between 13, 15, 18-year-old kids versus college kids, pro athletes. So we're hoping that we have an interesting and super informational podcast today for you. Before we get going today, I want to shout out to our sponsor, lineupcards.com. You can design, print 4-part lineup cards. You can do 11 by 17 dugout cards for baseball, softball. It's really easy. Visit lineupcards.com, submit your team info and logo. They'll print you out a roster on your cards. They'll send you a proof before they get printed, and they'll even ship them out to you. So we've been using those guys for a long time, and they do really great work. So enough of me talking. Coach, can I call you coach, trainer?
Yeah, coach, trainer, whatever you want. Happy to be here, man.
Comstock, how are we doing today?
Great.
So,
It's
give us the
35 degrees in Washington, so we're a little chilly over here.
I mean, you are definitely warmer than Atlanta today, buddy. So we're 27 currently. So yeah, it's
all right. I'll stop complaining.
No, it's fair because I mean the rest of part of the year, I'm sure that we're in much better weather state than you.
Sure.
So I definitely wore my big sweatshirt snuggie thing that I've got to walk the dogs this morning. It's got the Sherpa in. So why don't you go ahead and give us an introduction and tell all the people out there, who you are, where you came from, kind of what you do up there.
Sounds good. Yeah, like Michael said, I'm Dan Comstock. I grew up in California, a little town called Petaluma. Went to high school there. Got a scholarship to Menlo College, a small little NAI school down in the Bay Area, close to Stanford. Out of there, I got drafted by the Arizona Diamondbacks. Played 2 years with them and 3 years of independent ball. So that was my professional playing experience. Jason Ochart, the first director of hitting at Driveline, who is currently now, I believe, a hitting coordinator.
Yeah. With the Red Sox.
Yeah. With the Red Sox. Yeah. I don't know his exact title, but one of my best friends in the entire world, and he was my hitting coach in college when he got the job at Driveline. I knew there was nowhere else I wanted to train. And since then, never wanted to leave this place. So after I was done playing, there was an opportunity in the high performance department, which is our strength and conditioning department. Dan Adams, my mentor and first boss in strength and conditioning, kind of taught me everything that I know. He gave me a chance because I didn't really have a strength and conditioning background. I just like to lift weights. And then 4 years later, people have moved on into pro ball in our department, and now I'm sitting in the director chair. So that's kind of my path to where I am today. But yeah, happy to be here, man, and try to spread some knowledge around strength and conditioning, especially in the youth category.
I think it's interesting. I would say I'm new to the youth baseball scene, but our travel organization has been around for 5 years. So, and we've, Geo coached baseball for 25 years. I've done it for, I'm 34. I've done it for 15 years. I started when I was 19. I knew I was never going to get drafted. So obviously we read a lot of stuff and see a lot of stuff on Twitter, what you shouldn't be doing. And I think our thought process and understanding the human body has evolved. So I think it was when Chico reached out to me and said that we could get you on, I thought, even though we're going to come on here and talk about recruiting and how to get recruited and all that stuff, it still is a piece of that because your body needs to move well. You need to be strong in order to get to where your numbers need to be and good enough to get recruited. So I was pumped because I do think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and you think about all the things that were said about strength and conditioning a long time ago and what parents may think for strength and conditioning. It's just completely different now, in a good way. I think we've evolved. So, um,
100%,
yeah.
100%.
So, with Driveline, what is the when you guys get an athlete, what process do you go about for testing that athlete, building a program for them, and then training them and like reassessing them?
Sure. So broad scope. I guess I can talk about the like whole assessment process and then kind of condense it into my realm. So our assessment is a week long. Each pitcher and hitter does a biomechanics assessment in our motion capture lab, which has force plates. It's pretty cool, man. But
And
every
that's
guy.
the motion capture lab is what they see when just the skeleton.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. All the
Okay.
skeletons that you would see, yeah. So everybody gets markered up. Everybody's in their drawers. They got a bunch of like nipple looking things that basically designate where joints and things are. So encompasses a full biomechanic assessment with kinetic and kinematic data. So pretty cool process there. That's on day one or day two. Day two is the strength assessment portion of everyone's assessment. So we'll go through a quick little movement screen, which is just shoulder strength and range of motion. Shoulder strength and T spine range of motion.
Hmm.
Those are the two. We used to do a full range of motion assessment. Those two things were our highest signals to guys that failed those tests the most often and that tended to correlate to either movement or throwing velocity. So a quick little movement screen. We'll get guys warmed up and then we'll hop them on the force plates. We do a power test and a strength test. So our two power tests, so to speak, are the counter movement jump and the squat jump. The counter movement jump is going to test elastic power. The squat jump's gonna test concentric power. Those two jumps gives us an idea of how they like produce and dissipate force concentrically and through the stretch shortening cycle. So it gives us an idea of not necessarily like what type of phase a guy's going to go into, but more so like exercise selection and things of that nature. The last type of jumping test we do, it's more of a like tendon stiffness, muscle elasticity test, is the repeated hop test. So those are our three on the big force plates there. And then we move guys over to the isometric mid thigh pull, and that is our like absolute strength test. So I like to say that the jump testing is how much force you can produce in a like short amount of time constraint, which is power. And then our strength test is how much force you can produce in a holistic manner, which gives us a good idea of like where they fall on the like physical property side of things, and gives us a good idea of where to go with their program depending on the time of year.
So when you say like strength testing, you're not even talking about, hey, we're gonna load this deadlift bar up and see what kind of strength you got. You're not putting squat like plates on a squat rack and you're gonna plate and see what you max out at. You're talking about like from the squat jumps. You're talking about just from a stopped squat position,
Correct.
jumping up to see how high you go, how much
Correct.
off the ground you get.
Yeah. So basically, like the counter movement jump and the squat jump and the repeated hop tests um, are all time constrained tests, are all power tests, and power is the most correlated thing that we've found to throwing velocity and bat speed. And one of the highest correlators to power is strength. If you don't have adequate strength levels, you're not going to be able to produce enough power. There are definitely like some athletic movers that tend to be on the lighter side of body weight, but they still don't produce a lot of power. They can just jump really high. So like relative power, they're great. Body weight taken into account, they're like peak power. That total number tends to be a little bit lower for the lower body weight guys. So it's a whole encompassing assessment that has a lot of variables, and we could spend this whole podcast talking about the assessment and all the things that kind of go into it. But in short, we're just looking at like how much force you can produce from the isometric mid thigh pull, how much force you can produce quickly from the power tests, and then where are you at in your like yearly training plan,
Mm-hmm.
and when do you need to compete next, and then that's how we kind of develop your program. Um, so yeah, like I said, lots of variables that go into it, and it's kind of exciting putting pieces of the puzzle too, because we definitely work closely with the pitching and hitting departments to kind of um, what's the word? Words are hard to kind of figure out what type of workload an athlete's going to be doing depending on the
Right.
time of year. So like there are going to be times of year where the program is more strength and conditioning focused, where a guy just ended his season. We're not competing for a few months. We're going to hammer him with volume in the weight room so that later on in the off season, we don't have to do as much volume and we can focus on the skill work and getting ready to play, and vice versa. Like guys would come to us at the end of the off season and be like, what do I do? And be like, well, like we're just going to get you ready to go play. So, yeah, definitely talking about factors that going into a program, that was kind of a good segue. Yeah, those the time of year is a big one. Just kind of figuring out like when to put guys in certain phases, and again, that depends on the assessment. Like we tend to program in 6 week blocks and retest every 6 weeks, depending on where the guy is during his training yearly training plan. We could spend 4 weeks in a hypertrophy phase. We could spend 8 weeks in a strength phase. If like he needs to put on more strength, we could spend more time in a power phase later. So yeah, just kind of depends on that.
So it's important that you guys like the retesting is really important for you guys. Every time your phase ends, you want to retest before you build out another 4 to 6 weeks because
100%. Yeah, we just want to track progress, and lots of guys get caught up in the numbers, and I like to tell guys like if they have a like relatively bad retest, it's just a snapshot of time. It gives us an idea of where to go. It's not the end all be all. Like your
right,
test numbers could be really good one test. The next test, you could be super fatigued. You could have some like outside the facility stressors that you're dealing with, and your numbers could be down. So like there's again, there's so many factors that go into that one assessment that like it
right,
just gives us a path towards like, are we progressing in the right way? If you're super fatigued and you tested the exact same as 6 weeks ago, I call that a win.
yeah, of course,
Um, because if like 6 weeks ago you were testing in a non-fatigue state, you performed to like your highest output, and your numbers weren't that great. And this retest, you were super fatigued, you performed the same. That just means like once we give you time to recover and retest again, hopefully your numbers on that next retest look a little bit better. So, but yeah, every 6 weeks we kind of check in, be like, okay, are we doing right? Are we doing everything off the field right? Are we eating well? Are we sleeping enough? Are we taking our recovery days seriously? Things of that nature.
so it, we have this massive outline today of what we might want to talk about, and I want to commend you on your prep work for this because a lot
Thank
of
you.
a lot of baseball guys, I mean you intimidated me a little bit. I'm sitting in bed with my nightlight on, going through all this so I can, because someone that's going to take that amount of time to like prep and get their thoughts in order,
For sure.
I don't want to let you down. We
You
have
won't.
we
You
have
won't at all.
we have this massive outline, and I may skip around a little bit.
100%. 100%.
Based on
Go
things
ahead.
that you say. So you talk about guys that take their diet and their sleep and rest days seriously versus guys that don't. Just I mean, quickly go ahead and elaborate on how important a clean diet and good sleep is, and not just like professional athletes but even younger kids. Why is that so important, and why can that change your numbers drastically?
100%. If you're putting like bad fuel in your body, and the time that you're putting the fuel in your body is important. As we get closer to like your training or a game or things like that, we're gonna We're going to want to load up on carbs. Carbs are like a big energy source that our body uses for anaerobic exercise, which is basically what baseball is played in, is the anaerobic system in our body. Um, so like the time that you're putting carbs in is going to be big. Like the time to have a bunch of protein is going to be after a lift. Um, or depending on like what your body composition goals, but we can talk about that in a second. But I would say like proper nutrition is definitely important, especially for these younger athletes, the youth population that I get it at least once or twice a week. A 16-year-old who weighs 150 pounds comes in and he's like, I can't gain weight. And I'm like, yes, you can. You just haven't tried hard enough. You can supplement with protein if you need to, but like supplements are supplements for a reason. Like dense calorie food is going to be more important for your body weight goal than a protein shake. If you need those extra calories, for sure, add the protein shake. Let's say you're at a workout in the morning and then you got to go to school and you can't have breakfast. Like for sure, get a protein shake in, just to like replenish those energy systems that we used during our workout or training or whatever. But I would definitely say food is more important than any type of supplement that you can have. While we're on the supplement excuse me, while we're on the supplement topic, the two that I usually recommend are creatine and fish oil. And if you want to throw a multivitamin in there, great. Creatine is really good for keeping your muscles hydrated. Helps with muscle gain. The creatine phosphate system, again, anaerobic. It's kind of what we use the most in baseball. If we put a little bit extra creatine in our body right before we go to hit a workout or training or a game or whatever, that'll help us perform potentially a little bit better. But those are the kind of supplements that I recommend to guys. You don't need to get everything off the GNC rack. Those three things I think are the most important. And as far as like sleep goes, um, if you're especially like youth kids going through puberty, there's so many developmental and physical things that are happening. 7 to 9 hours, and I like to err on the let's try to get 9 hours in bed. Limit the screen time before bed, making sure we're unwinding correctly. Definitely learn that as a new dad. If we don't unwind correctly, my little 5 month doesn't want to go to bed. But that's another segue for later. But definitely unwind, turn the lights off, start turning the lights down around an hour or two before you go to bed, just to start regulating your body's natural circadian rhythm, and things of that nature. But yeah, shooting for 9 hours of sleep, definitely important. Decreasing cortisol during your sleep, which is the stress hormone, just allows us to recover a little bit better, bounce back to hit the next training day, whatever it may be. So diet and sleep, again, like big factors that go into player development, and especially in the youth population with kids still physically developing, have to eat right, have to sleep enough.
For youth training or youth athletes, how how important is it? Obviously, you guys are working with high level. Do you still bring up high schoolers?
We have a youth academy that I want to say are 12 to 18. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, we have teams that we train as well. So definitely not working with them as often. I'm mostly working with the college and pro guys for the most part, but definitely have some experience working with those youth guys.
So, with the youth, how important is it to test them on the stuff that you test your older guys on, and maybe not so much in depth, or maybe in depth. I have no idea. I'm genuinely curious.
Sure.
Like for us, athletes 13 through 18, what kind of tests would you run them through?
So with our younger athletes, it's kind of an age scale. Again, like we want to be able to track some data. We want to be able to see like, are we making progress? Um, I would say the most important thing for the youth training is like, especially on my side of the wall. I say side of the wall. We have this giant plyo wall that splits the weight room and the skill floors. So I say on my side of the wall a lot when I'm talking to other people. But just so everybody understands that reference, on my side of the wall, like keeping youth training fun. Um, I would say kids are going to lose a lot of focus if they're coming in and doing goblet squats and push-ups and all of these boring exercises
Yeah.
that are good for you. I'm not saying you shouldn't be doing that. I'm not saying it shouldn't be part of your training. We definitely need to learn how to squat properly. Definitely need to learn how to hinge properly. Like those things are important, but that should not be the bulk of the training with the very younger groups. So back to your original question, we're just testing our 13s on just the counter movement jump. Again, we're just collecting data. We're seeing if over time we're collecting counter movement jump and body weight at that point, and actually height. We're tracking all of those things to see how an athlete is physically developing. We don't need to track height for the older population. Guys are usually capped out there, unless somebody hits a growth spurt at 18 to 20. But with our whole youth population, we're tracking height as well. But yeah, 13, we're just doing a counter movement jump. When we move up to 14 to 16, guys are doing the counter movement jump, squat jump, and repeated hop test. And then 16 and up, we're adding in the strength part, the mid thigh pull. Just so again, we're collecting data over time. But the goal for those younger athletes is like we're trying to keep training fun. We're trying to keep them engaged to continue to keep coming back. And we're focusing on like movement skills and sport skills at at the very early stages of youth training. And then as guys get older, that's when we can start implementing volume work and weight room movement. Like I said, we should be introducing that stuff earlier on, but that's not the bulk of our training on our side of the wall. And then again, as guys continue to get older, I like to say like if you're 16 to 18 years old and you put in a quality like 6 month, like I'm gonna bust my tail with this 6 month program, a lot of that you don't have to do anymore. Once you move on, obviously guys are still going to be lifting heavy and moving stuff fast. But if we can set a good foundation from 16 to 18 years old in the weight room, the it becomes more about the skill work than the like physical side of things. And like I said, like I'm a strength coach. I'm never going to say like you're strong enough. But there's times of the year where we can say, hey, I'm going to trade some training economy in the weight room so that I can have more training economy to focus on the skill work. I guess that was a long-winded answer to your question.
No, no, that's okay.
I don't remember if I answered your
No,
original question
you
or
did
not,
you
but
did, and
okay, perfect.
feel free to get long winded and go down different paths and everything.
Perfect.
They're not on, and nobody's listening to this for me to talk about how you shouldn't eat double cheeseburgers at 10 p.m. at night because it's
Why not?
not gonna be good for you. Because then you look like this, you look like this.
I think you
So
look great.
I mean, I had to make these boxes on the screen shorter and wider to fit me in there. Um, so I think you touched on a huge thing that we try to do is training a movement as opposed to like we have a pretty good knowledge of what movements are going to be good for the swing and good for
Sure.
pitching, which your body when you hit and throw it works the same essentially. Like you're going to need the same
Yep.
movement. So I think for us, like our goal with our guys is always to, with our warm up and our movement prep station that we do, is promote good movement for the kids, even if they don't understand, like, why are we doing these warm ups? Why are we doing this stretch? It's and like you said, you got to make it fun for them because they lose interest so fast. Like, that's
100%.
it's done. So it's got to be
Yeah, 100%.
quick bursts of, here we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this, and maybe you don't, do you do a like goblet squat like down and back, and then you're not crushing 100 goblet squats, and then you're switching to
Yep.
something different.
Yep.
Because like you said, when they're younger, building that foundation of good movement is going to take you further than a 12-year-old deadlifting 200 pounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And like as kids tend to grow up, also like there's more benefits to like neurological gains rather than the like muscular strength gains. So talking about movement and like keeping things fun, like a lot of our youth training for our 14 15s and under, we're playing games in the weight room. We're like playing med ball volleyball, we're playing like med ball soccer, we're like doing things that like competition based, keep these kids engaged, but they're making neurological movement gains without even like realizing it. Like a guy throws a med ball over their head, they got to run and catch it and then throw it back. Like they're in that process, there's so many movements that are happening. It just allows the body to self organize, and they start to become more athletic. Versus a kid that's going to deadlift 200 pounds at 12, like that's great and all, but there's not a lot of movement and like athletic freedom that the deadlift allows you to do. Like obviously, like the deadlift is a key cog in our higher level programs, but for the youth kids, again, like keeping things fun. Let's focus on the movement. Let's make sure we're hinging correctly, and then let's go play a game. Let's go have fun. Let's run. Let's sprint. Let's jump. Let's skip. Let's do all these things that allow these kids to like be athletic, and then as they get older, they now take that athleticism and start putting on body weight and putting on more strength and producing more power, and that's what leads to the throwing velocity and the bat speed gains that we tend to see in our programs.
How do I word this? Um, do you see, like, when you got a guy that's really strong, but in turn, I say really strong in terms of like he can load up the weight on a squat rack, stuff like that.
Sure. Yep.
But let's say well, I guess if you'd be really strong, you wouldn't have a bad hip hinge. Let's say he doesn't move.
That's not true. That's not true.
There's a correlation, I guess.
Sure.
So let's say like that guy, strongest guy there, but his exit velocity is very average in terms of the group he's with, but he's the strongest one there. You've noticed a deficiency in, let's say, his hip hinge or something to do with his movement. Are those the guys that you see the massive jumps from? Is that why you see those massive jumps? Or it could be vice versa, where a guy's not very strong in terms of lifting, but his counter jump is great and his squat jump is great. Yeah. And then because he's never really lifted, and then you put him in a program like yours and he takes off. Are those the guys that you see the big numbers jump from?
That's a great question. I would say, like, yeah, we see both sides of the spectrum. We definitely see the strong guys that aren't powerful. We see the powerful guys that are the relatively powerful guys that aren't that strong. So again, just like catering to the athlete's needs and like what their lowest hanging fruit is. So let's say a guy's really strong, his exit velocity is really low. Our department has a pretty cool tool. It's a model that predicts exit velocity, or sorry, not exit velocity, but bat speed and throwing velocity. And then we can take that and be like, okay, where is their actual throwing velocity? Where is their actual predicted bat speed? If a guy has a predicted bat speed of, let's say, just easy math, 70 miles an hour, but he's swinging the bat at 60 miles an hour. If a guy's predicted bat speed is 70 miles an hour, that means his strength assessment was pretty good. That means he had some physical qualities that we deem important to be able to swing the bat fast. But that's 60 miles an hour of actual bat speed just means that he's probably going to have to take more time on the skill side of things because he has those physical qualities to be able to swing the bat fast. And then the same thing the other way around. Let's say his predicted bat speed is at 60 miles an hour, but his actual bat speed is at 70 miles an hour. That means, damn, this guy's really good at swinging the bat. He knows how to use his body in space really well. He's aware of his movement, but he just doesn't have that big engine. So that's why his predicted bat speed was really low. So now we can take him, be like, okay, we're not going to totally neglect the swing side of things. We're not going to totally neglect the skill, but we're going to spend a lot more time on my side of the wall. We're going to spend more time putting good body weight on, getting a lot stronger, producing a lot more force more quickly, getting guys more powerful, which then might take that guy from 70 miles an hour actual bat speed 75, and his predicted could get closer to that. So just trying to mix and match like I said, the training economy and the skill work and the strength and conditioning side. I like to think of it as a dimmer switch, right? Like we're not totally turning off the skill side dimmer switch. We're not totally turning off or turning up the strength side, but like we have $1 to spend every day. So like where are we going to spend our dollar? And it just differs from guy to guy. But yeah, we see those examples a ton, and just like trying to cater our program to where the athlete needs to go.
That's so interesting. I feel like it's so deep. The training mixed with the assessments, mixed with, I mean, even splitting training into strength and conditioning training and the skill training with you don't use your backside enough on your swing. Like you could be super strong and powerful, but if you don't use your your backside correctly or your lower half correctly, you're not getting everything out of it. So, and you guys do a great job of everything is in house and like intertwined. Like you're working with the hitting side, the other side of the wall, as you would say, and saying, why is this kid not producing at where he should? He needs to spend more time with you. I'm going to lower his workload. Let's increase his workload on your side or whatever it is. And that's next level of training for these kids is, you may have a kid that has a hitting coach, pitching coach, and strength and conditioning coach that they've hired here, or they do lessons with, but usually it's not going to be everybody's working together, right? Like the pitching coach is doing his thing, and it just reminds me of like a example from this past summer, where I had a pitcher. I thought he's great, and I got some Division Ones to come out and look at him, and he knew like 2 weeks ahead of time that this was happening, and then he goes out that day and he throws. He didn't throw bad, but like he's laboring, like he's tired. You just tell him, like he comes off the second inning. I was like, "You good?" He's like, "I'm good, coach. I'm working through it." And then I asked his buddy on the bench. I said, "What's his problem today? He looks like tired." He was like, he had a max bench press yesterday. I said, I got it, just enraged, and I'm like, I've told this kid for 2 weeks. We got these Division Ones. He's a borderline kid, like where there was a lot of Division One schools that were taking a nibble on him, and I knew he could definitely go pitch D3. I'm like, I was ready to just like yell at this kid, and he was like, the football coach made him do it. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? I was like, did he tell the coach? He's like, yeah, he told him he's got to pitch in front of D1s tomorrow, and coach said, that's great. You got a max bench press today. And that's just, I mean, that football coach you got to.
I'm not above the max bench press. I'm not above that. I think that the bench press is a huge.
No. I'm with you, but
the timing of it was terrible.
I know, and we all got a job to do, and that guy's got a job to do. But it's almost like you wish it'd be a little bit more understanding. But I guess that goes in line of the point I was trying to make, where at this age, they're not everybody's not in line with one another. And like,
Sure.
let's just, I mean, while we're here, we're talking about football and baseball.
Yeah.
Talk about your opinion on multi-sport athletes, good, bad, indifferent. What do you think there? At what point do you
The
think they should start specializing, if at
Sure.
all?
This is a very controversial topic
Oh yeah, this clip is
on
this clip is
on
going on Twitter, and you're gonna
on
have
the
a
X sphere. See,
yeah
I can't
on the
wait to
X.
get roasted. Yeah, it's X now. It's not Twitter.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, man, it's crazy because I can see arguments for both sides. The athlete that I'm thinking of is Aaron Judge. Yeah, he played basketball, he played football, he played baseball. He was a pretty sure he was an All American in all three of those categories. You could quote me if I'm wrong. I'm totally happy to be wrong, but he was really good at all of those things. Another sport, LeBron. He was a probably could have gone D1 to play football. He might be the best tight end in the universe by the time he decided to play basketball. Whatever. Um, those are also genetic freaks. Like if you look at those guys, of course they're just going to dominate in high school because they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster than all of their peers.
right.
Um, so there's both sides to the argument where I think I would be a hypocrite if I would say like I didn't specialize early. I played 2 years of high school football, but I was just mainly baseball for my entire career. And I also wasn't really that good of an athlete. I could just rotate and throw a baseball pretty well,
Mm-hmm.
and swing a bat pretty fast. But I would say like the younger the athlete, like definitely don't like just put him in a tunnel, right? Like we're talking about all these games that we play with the youth academy, right? Like we don't want to just like hyper focus on one thing so early that we're hindering physical development in other areas, right? Like if we're just playing baseball, like we're not really getting like all out sprint stimulus all that often. We're not getting like a lot of plyometric stuff all that often. Um, so I mean I don't know, man. I think the answer is it depends. So people on X, you can't say I was right or wrong. I think it just depends on the athlete.
I was kidding.
I like
This is not going on an X. My goal
oh,
my goal
I'm
more than
good. I'm good.
my goal more than anything in this podcast is to never get anybody canceled. Um, I
um,
think it's too often, and please, if I ever say anything that you don't agree with or any of that, like chime in.
sure,
Like I'm
sure.
good having the debate, and I'm good being educated. And if I'm wrong on a lot of things. I think a lot of
Me
times,
too.
a lot of times, like we can't ever be in the middle on things. Like we have to be either end of the spectrum, where it's like if it's almost like, I guess, political views. Like
Sure,
you either have to be like super left or super right. Like the
sure.
people in the middle are just wrong, right? So when guys talk about should you specialize in sports, they never have the talk about, well, it depends on the athlete, because
100%.
like,
100%.
and I think you hit on a good topic. When you're younger and everything is still developing,
And you're still new to movement.
right?
Yeah, like
You may be terrible at soccer, but playing soccer when you're 7 is going to give you skills just doing soccer that
yeah.
you wouldn't get where if you specialize in baseball, and you need those sprinting skills and the foot speed and
Yep.
all
Yep.
that. And then I think that kid playing high school soccer probably doesn't get as much out of soccer at that age as he does when he's 7. So I think
For sure.
the magic question is, and there's no answer, so good luck. But the magic question is, at what point do you say, I'm not this athlete, I'm going to play just baseball? Like, for me, I couldn't shoot, dribble, pass. Like the only thing I could do is I could follow you and I could put my butt into you and box you out, and that's
Yeah, I
it.
could box anybody out,
That's
man.
it. Well, I only was able to do this shit because I knew how to. I stream video games, so
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
that's how I knew how to do all this stuff. But anyways, but I think where I left off was instead of going to basketball practice 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, at some point I knew that spending that time doing baseball activities was going to be more beneficial to me than sitting on the bench in my, you know, my Kobe Bryant basketball shoes and
yeah. Yeah.
rooting my team on. I mean, but for me, I was able to realize that at a young age, and I don't know what the magic answer is to at what point you need to take a step back and say, all right, let's specialize in, and some kids are super athletes where they're the start.
Sure.
We have a kid committed to Wofford. He is the starting quarterback of the football team. He is starting shortstop, but he's committed for baseball. And
Okay.
maybe he never specializes. Maybe he just plays football and baseball the whole time until he goes off to college. Like, I don't. What's your thought on?
I would
I guess
definitely
an
encourage
age
if it,
area.
yeah. I would definitely encourage if you're performing at a high level in multiple sports, like play those sports as long as you want. Um, if you're not performing in one sport and you like the other sport better, and you're at an age where it's just like, okay, like I could either spend more time trying to get better at this sport, or I can just like ride the bench on this other sport. Like maybe that's the time to specialize. Um, it's gonna like I said, it's gonna depend athlete to athlete. Um, I I loved playing football. I hated practice. I just despised practice. But Friday nights were sick, and that ultimately led to like I don't want to get my butt kicked for 6 days a week just to go beat somebody else's butt for one day a week.
Yeah,
Um, so I kind of knew that like I wasn't going to be a 250-pound fast, like I wasn't going to be a lineman or linebacker. Um, so I knew I was like, okay, like I can either go do this baseball thing and put all of my eggs in that basket, or I can just like play football because it's cool and it's fun and my friends are doing it. I made a tough decision. Definitely, like some of my friends were like, "Dude, you got to play." Like, but my goal was to like play in college, play at the professional level. I played baseball until I was 25. I absolutely loved it. I don't have any regrets towards my playing career because I knew that I did everything that I could, and ultimately I wasn't a major league baseball player. But that's okay because I gave myself an honest assessment and chance towards that goal. And sometimes you fall short, and that's okay. Um, but yeah, I mean, I loved competing. I loved playing sports. So it was just like the give and take of what I wanted to do, and I knew that like baseball was going to be my priority for the long term. So that was kind of my path, and yeah, you can parents and kids like do whatever you want, but like give yourself a like objective opinion around your goals. If you're doing it just to have fun, cool. Like that's like there's places for that. Um, if your goal is to like play at the highest level, like you're going to have some sacrifices in other areas of your life. So it's I would say that's more of a like mental battle than a physical battle at all. Just like giving up time on the weekends with your friends or going to a party or doing whatever. It's just like, yeah, like I got to go home and go to sleep because I have a workout in the morning. Like I can't hang out and play Fortnite until 3 in the morning. Sorry, guys. You're gonna have to make those tough decisions as a young kid, older kid, young adult to be good at something. Um, yeah, totally different rabbit hole, but
no, you're right, and I think the it's hard to say, but there are some people, and this is just life, right? Like some people are just more gifted than others. So
100%,
the
100%. Genetics are a thing.
LeBron,
100%.
LeBron, like we talked about, LeBron could probably he would still be a Hall of Famer if he didn't put millions of dollars into his body and training every year, and he wanted to play Fortnite till 3 a.m. and also eat double cheeseburgers at midnight. Like
Sure,
he still
sure.
was going to be a professional athlete that was a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
Whereas I don't know, pick the guy that probably shouldn't have been in the Hall of Fame but running the borderline. That guy, if he didn't take care of his body, is probably not in the Hall of Fame. But
yeah,
and it's the same thing I think with the youth athletes, and this is the really hard part, especially with parents of they want their kid to be so good, and they look out and they see their kid working hard, and they see another kid that doesn't really work that hard, but like he's so talented, and
yeah.
that kid just it doesn't matter what he does, he's going to be better than the other kids. So the kid that's not as talented has to work. He
Yep.
he has to give up all the other sports and has to train just baseball and sport specific to just be as good as he is. And it's not fair, but I mean it's the way life is, and
Life is not fair. Yeah,
we
100%.
can spend our time
100%.
complaining about that, being upset, being pissed off at
Yeah.
God or whatever you believe in, but like that's
Yeah.
the way it is. And that's why like when guys come on the podcast and they're like, I believe there's a place in college baseball for every player. And I'm just like, let me stop you right there because let's have this debate. I don't think there is. Because at some point the game is gonna give you up. Even if you're
Yeah.
Mike Mike Trout is gonna get told like, hey, you're not good enough anymore, even though that he may be the best baseball player that we've seen
To ever play. Yeah. To
ever,
ever play.
but he's going to lose what makes him Mike Trout. And
Yeah.
either he's going to take a pay cut when he's 45 and he's going to hit 220 and be a very average player. And if he's okay with that, great. Or he's going to say, I'm Mike Trout. I'm not going out like that. But like the game is going to give you up. Sometimes it's
At
when
one
you're
point or another. Yeah.
sometimes it's when you're 13 and the kid doesn't make ATL Lightning A team and he doesn't want to play B team.
Yeah.
The game
Yeah.
gave him up because he's not willing to, and that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying if I can't play in the A team, I don't want to play at all. Like that's your prerogative. Like you can do whatever you want, but
Yeah.
you gotta self awareness is hard for a lot of people, but you got to take a step back and say, I'm not going to be a football player. I'm not going to be a basketball player.
100%. And I think that like the hard work and all of that. We have a great video that and I got the honor to train with Casey Weathers. I don't know if the Chico or Sammy talk to you about this guy, but like
No,
I
they didn't.
thought
So go into detail.
I thought I worked hard, and I show up to Driveline, and this guy, man, like just there wasn't a lot of people that could outwork me when I was playing, and I would spend extra time in the gym, and I'd be like, damn, I gotta go, but this guy's still here. um, this guy worked his tail off, and like he always had a positive mindset, and his thing was like hard work doesn't guarantee anything except like an honest answer of can I do this thing or not.
Yep.
Like you can work your tail off and you can try to achieve anything and you might fall short. But if your process is correct, like you can put your head on the pillow at the end of the night and be like, I literally did everything that I could. And some people think that like that's also a relative and subjective thing. It's just like, oh, I thought I could do everything I could. Um, there's always room to push a little more. There's always room to do things a little bit harder. There's always room for knowledge and all of that, all of those type of intangible things. Like you can always do some reading, you can always do some research. Like there's so many things that go into it. Um, if you push through and you don't make it, that's okay. But if you don't work hard and you're just like, my coach hates me, or like, I didn't get the right opportunity, it's like, I don't believe that. Like, if you really want something, um, you'll never say that, because you'll work hard enough to get it, and then you'll realize that, like, hey, this thing just wasn't for me. And people can hate me or not for that, but like, I don't think life is fair. Um, I think there's a lot of things that go on that happen, and like, that's okay. But like, I'm going to work hard every day to give myself the best chance and opportunity for myself, for my family, for my newborn daughter. Um, that's just me. So, and like, if I fall short in the process, like, I can live with myself at nighttime.
I think
Um,
that's the big thing is being able to look back on your career or whatever and saying, I got the most out of what I have because I worked hard. Like so many older people or people that are just wiser, right? As you get older, you get wiser usually. Um, they always say like you don't want to have any regrets. You don't want to look back and say I could do this, could do that, because
yeah,
they live that. And what is unfair and shitty about life is
yeah,
as an 18-year-old, 17-year-old, 22-year-old male or female, even though females are just way more mature than males at that age, at
for sure.
at any age really. It's we're not developed enough to realize that all of our decisions have consequences, and
Yeah,
we're not able to wrap our head around what all of these older and wiser people are telling us, because so much of life is learning through like failure and experiences. But when you're 30 and you've failed when you're 20 because you like to party instead of working hard, it's like, damn, I wish could go back and do it over, but you can't. So all we can do is try to stress to kids that what I'm telling you, you're going to come back in 10, 15 years and be like, damn, coach, you were right. And I like being right as much as the next guy, maybe even more, maybe even more. But I want you to come back and say, damn, coach, you're right. Thank you for telling me that, because I listened. Not always the case. So,
yeah,
it's like a freshman in high school that doesn't take his grade seriously. And when he's a senior, he now takes his grade seriously, and he couldn't get his dream school because as a 14-year-old kid, he got C's instead of A's. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And
yeah,
now he can't get into Columbia because
sure.
he was 14. Like that's not fair. Like it's garbage. But
Yeah,
it's
for
just,
sure.
again, this life's not fair, and it's the way things
Yeah,
work. And I think developing a relationship with those kids is the most important thing, because if you
100%.
develop a relationship with them, they'll trust you, and then they'll listen to you on that. And it's the same thing. I mean, I'm developing relationships with my players. You got to develop relationships with your trainees, I would
Yeah,
say, like,
that's
so
that's
they
that's the
trust you.
favorite part of my job, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
like, I love being a strength coach. Like, I always thought I wanted to be a hitting coach, but like, my wheelhouse is people, and I love talking to people. I love getting to know people, um, figuring out what makes them tick, figuring out how I can push them. Like, how I would talk to myself and push myself is different than how I would talk to you, how I would talk to uh ex big leaguer trying to make it back into pro ball, how I would talk to high school Johnny, how I would talk to indie ball guy. Like, there's so many personalities and everybody's different, and like, that's the other piece of the puzzle. It's like, I can give you all this information, man, be like, hey, your squat jump sucks, your strength sucks, you need to get your body weight up, but I can't say that verbatim to every guy. I could say those same statements to two people, and I would get two different results on the training side. So I gotta now take these results and be able to tell my athletes, like, hey, like, this guy needs a pat on the back, this guy needs a lighter under his butt. all those type of things. So like that's the fun part to me, is just like connecting with people, getting them to know like what makes them tick, and like pushing a little bit harder. Some guys I can talk a little smack to, be like, he puts 275 on the bench press, to be like, yo, that's cute. And then he'll do more. And then like another guy would be like, let's go, like 275, that's sick. And be like, all right, I got more in me. Like there's different ways to skin the cat to get the same result, but like you have to finesse your way through that, and like be a people person through and through, especially with these kids, especially with the younger generation, where like if they don't trust you, if they don't think that they have you have their best interests at heart, if you can't connect with them, like they're not going to take anything that you say seriously. So,
That's the beauty
yeah,
of
I love that you mentioned relationships, man, because like you can get similar training anywhere. Like
mhm.
everybody has strength and conditioning programs, everybody has hitting programs, everybody has pitching programs, and I'm on the side of the fence that like if you just work hard and push yourself, like you'll probably get better. Like I'm biased and I can say like I think our programs are the best. I think like we have a cohesive unit at our place. Like we make objective decisions. But I'm not going to say that other places don't work. Like
Well, going
you,
in and following a program
yeah,
is more than likely going to be better than not doing anything at all. I mean, obviously, barring
100%.
injury and stupid shit that you're doing in there,
Yeah,
just go like me getting off my ass and going and doing some type of cardio is better than not doing any cardio, even though I
yeah,
may not be doing the most efficient way to burn calories. But,
sure, sure.
if just getting there and following that program, like we always talk about, like for baseball, like a team, you could have the best coach in the world, like let's not say the best coach, the smartest baseball mind in the world as your coach. If you have a team full of guys that don't believe in what he's teaching, maybe some of them do, some of them don't, they're a little split. And you could have like an old school coach that's my way, the highway. We're going to swing down to create backspin. We get a runner on first. We're butting him over. Like, if that team is fully bought in to that guy, they're probably going
They're
to
probably going to win. Yeah,
produce better
100%.
results. And I think
Yeah,
it just goes back to relationships, being able to have guys believe in you and get your point across to them. And like you said, some guys, like, I needed to be yelled at, right?
yeah.
Or
Me too.
or
Me too.
or guilted. Like guilted work
Yeah,
too, like guilted work too, where it
yeah,
was like, look at this guy and look at his stats, and then look at
yeah,
your stats and look at you.
yeah.
Do you think you think if you'd work like him, we'd have a better team? Do you think guys would follow you? They don't follow him.
Yeah.
You're the best player on the team. Like, do you think maybe? And I'd be like, shit. Oh man,
Yes.
yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. Or
Yeah.
I needed, like, I could take getting yelled at because that was my high school coach. Like, he just yelled, and I hated it at the time. And then I was like, wow, actually, it motivated me. And
Yeah.
um, so anyways, we went off on a little tangent, but
Love it. Yeah. Yeah.
no, it's relative because again, this podcast is designed for our 13 to 18-year-old parents, and hopefully it reaches more people than just our program. But a
For
lot
sure.
a lot of these things are misnomers or things that they need to hear. Um,
Yeah.
you like when we were young. Here's a question I'm gonna ask you off topic. It's not on your. It's not on
All good.
your
All
outline.
good.
So if you feel uncomfortable, I'm sorry.
I'm good.
When people
Fire
used
away.
to say, "Well, I don't want to lift too heavy because I don't want to get too tight," right? Do you want me to just
I
put up a?
love
Do
that.
you want me to just put up? I can't lift biceps because it's gonna hurt. You want me to put up a picture of Aroldis Chapman here or what? Like what? How do you feel? How do you feel about like that statement?
Sure. Like if you're doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I said it earlier in this podcast. Like I love the bench press. It's like it's
Mm-hmm.
great for upper body, muscular development, strength, power, like all of those things. Like the bench press is great. If that's all you're doing in your program and you're not doing any type of mobility work to like get to some end ranges, so like if we're just like benching right here, like of course like I'm going to be tight because I'm not going through a full range of motion. Um, we pair like bench presses with like deep like scaption push-ups where like okay like now I have to pull my shoulders all the way back, like I have to create scap retraction in the throw, but I need to be strong through that range of motion too. So to answer the question, like if you're lifting like an ass hat, yeah, you're probably going to get tight. If you're not doing the like little extra mobility work or cool down after you lift, yeah, you might be tight a little bit. If you're not sleeping enough, your body's not going to recover enough. You're not going to create that adaptation that we're trying to get you to create. Like, yeah, like you're probably going to get tight. If you're doing everything correctly and to a T, and then you get tight, like, okay, then that's our fault. Then like we can adjust our program. Then we know, like, okay, like this didn't work for you. This might. Um, I don't think lifting is going to make you tight. I think like lifting wrong is going to make you tight. Um, yeah, like, and I will sacrifice a little bit of range of motion for strength and power. And like in the throw, in baseball, the only joint that really gets to end range is the shoulder joint in the throw, and that's only external rotation. Like every other joint in your body, like you're not getting the maximal end ranges.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like upper body should be a little bit loose, so like you allow yourself to be able to go through that whole range of motion. Um, but in the swing and the throw, you maybe get 45 degrees of hip shoulder separation. And on the table, we're looking for guys to get 60 degrees of range of motion.
Mm-hmm.
And 45 is the maximum that I've seen in the throw.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, why are we testing the 60? Typically, like, that's just if guys can't get to 60 on the table, they're not going to get two adequate numbers in the throw or swing.
Does
But I've
more.
seen guys.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, you.
I've seen guys that like fail our movement screen but achieve plenty in the throw because they're good at the skill work. They're good at disassociating their hips and shoulders, right? So there's a belief out there that you have to like achieve these maximal ranges of motion to be good at baseball, and I completely disagree. I think like shoulder external rotation is probably one. Good scap retraction is probably two in the throw. Otherwise, man, like go get it. Like go be as strong as possible. Go be as big as possible. Go be as physical as possible. And to like put this into perspective, like Aroldis Chapman's a little bit older. He's getting towards the end of his career, but he was dominant for a long time, and he threw 105, and like he was probably the most physical athlete on the field. Another example, and like totally other end of the spectrum, I love watching the Little League World Series every year. The guy that looks like he's 15 is beating the hell out of these 12-year-olds. Like
Mm-hmm.
he just throws harder and swings the bat faster because he's bigger and stronger. Like that has nothing to do with like the work that he did. Probably
He's
it probably
blessed.
has everything to do with his genetics right now when he's 12, right? So like that's an extreme example, but like if you're bigger and more physical than your competition, you're probably going to have some success on the field. So yes, like don't lift like an idiot, or you are going to be tight. You're not going to be able to achieve the ranges of motion in the swing or throw that you need to. But especially with the youth population, like no, go get it, go get it. Like you have so much physical development to go through. No, you're not going to be tight at all. Like I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
I mean, that's just a cop out for, if you want my opinion.
Yeah,
It's just a
yeah,
cop out for guys that don't want to go in the weight room and they don't want to,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
a a,
It's
a,
starting to come around. Starting
a,
to come around.
a,
It's starting to get a little bit less of that year over year.
a quote that I like is, "Everybody want to be bodybuilders, but nobody want to lift this heavy ass weight."
Lightweight, baby.
How do you think
I'll
this?
do it though.
How do you think this guy right here? You see this guy? You know who that is?
Ronnie Coleman, right?
No.
I can't see your screen right now.
You see it now?
I see a OBS and a video thing.
Oh shit. Here we go.
Here we are. We're back.
That guy right
Let me
there.
see. I can't put a name to a face there.
Ric Flair.
Okay.
How do you think he would do on the old assessments?
Probably great.
And he was massive.
Yeah.
Massive.
Yeah.
So I mean basically to wrap that up is we're not worried about being too tight. Get your ass in the
No.
weight room.
Yeah.
Lift heavy. Our buddy that coached at Oglethorpe with us went and worked at Driveline. Now he's with the Yankees. Sam Breen. Lift
Love Sam. Yeah. Yeah.
lift heavy shit fast.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
his
Yes. Yes.
thing.
That's good.
So
Yeah.
and
Yeah. And
this
then do it over and over again.
yep. And
Yeah.
so I have one question that I want to ask you, but I think I'll ask you after this because we've segued into this.
Okay.
What are like some of the foundational exercises that our guys that are 13 through 18, and I know that's a big age range and there's a lot of maturity going there, but what are some of
Yeah.
the exercises that they can start doing with a gym, without a gym, building
Sure.
into their dynamic warm up? Because I send guys out to left field to do a dynamic warm up, and they've come back in 12 minutes later and they've done that warm up and they've thrown. I'm like, ain't no way, brother. Like,
No way.
what are
No way.
some of the things that you think that they need to start incorporating in their dynamic warm ups, in their warm up for the gym, all of that?
I love the warm up question. Because typically when we run warm ups for all of our Gen Pop training slots, and our
Gen
youth
pop.
guys too. Yeah we call it Gen Pop.
That's awesome.
But um, when we run warm ups, we typically run a warm up based on like what type of throwing you're going to have today. So if you have a recovery day, our dynamic warm up is going to look a lot different than if you have a pull down or a plyo velo or a bullpen or things like that. So we're trying to match the warm up with the stimulus of the day. If we're going to do a recovery, like I'm trying to do less CNS stuff. I'm trying to keep things a little bit more low
What's
key. I'm
saying
going to
it?
try central nervous system.
Okay. So what does that mean
Uh, so
for
so basically, like
everyone else that doesn't know? I just have to preface that I do know, but just anyone else.
sure, like just like getting your body primed for like a specific exercise. So like a high CNS exercise, like throwing, like lifting, like doing sprinting, jumping, like those things require a lot of central nervous system stress, I would say. Um, don't quote me on that, but basically just getting your body hot. I would say is like
Getting a good
what
lube. Getting a
what
good lube.
yeah, sure. Um, so on a high intent day, I'm gonna do more sprint work. I'm gonna do more like med ball work before. I might incorporate some skips and some bounds, like really getting the body going. On a recovery day, I might do a little bit more floor work. I might do some rolling. I might do uh not really static stretching, but like some type of like movement and stretch uh where I'm trying to get the body recovered. We don't need to get our body temp up that high on a recovery day. It's a 50% day. Let's just match the warm up with the stimulus. So when we're getting ready to go play, like, yes, get the heart rate up, get body temperature up, get the CNS going, then go throw. That should not take 12 minutes. That should take like 15. And then you go throw.
And then you throw.
And then you throw. Yeah. But yeah, just incorporating different types of like that's we were talking about movement earlier too. Like we'll do some movement exploration stuff. We do some rolling. We'll do some floor work. We'll just like put guys in positions that they're not necessarily in every single day. But again, trying to like get guys to be uncomfortable in these positions so that on the mound it's just easy. As far as like weight room stuff is concerned, like we're gonna squat, we're gonna hinge, we're gonna lunge, we're gonna skip, we're gonna bound, we're gonna jump, we're gonna sprint. Like those are the main lower body exercises that we're gonna be doing. Upper body, we're gonna push horizontally and vertically. We're gonna pull horizontally and vertically. Obviously, hit some arm farm and forearms. We throw the ball with our arm. We hold the bat with our hands, right? So, um, biceps and triceps are definitely arm care. Accessory work, we'll do a bunch of med ball stuff. We'll do scoop tosses. We'll do shot puts. We'll do overhead throws. We'll do slams, things like that. Any type of mobility, typically we'll stick with like hip, T-spine, shoulder, ankle. Those are the main joints that need to be mobile, things of that nature. So that's basically the foundation. And then there's always variations off of like hinging and squatting. We have sumo deadlifts, we have RDLs, we have single leg RDLs, we have good mornings, we have pull throughs. Like there's so many variations that come with those types of different exercises, and it's just like different ways to skin a cat, right? Like for example, yesterday I had a guy that was lunging. I didn't like how far his torso was over, and he was doing a posterior load. So for a set, I said, hey, like let's go anterior load. Let's feel the torso being a little bit more upright. When he went back to the posterior load, he got the adaptation that I wanted to. And that's just like more coaching than like the actual like program. Like you can write the best program, and the athlete can execute it correctly, but you also have to be, as a coach, like be there with eyes. If you see something wrong, for sure, like we got to intervene. We got to be like, hey, like this is the movement that we're trying to create. Intervene, make sure we get to a better movement pattern, and then just let the athlete explore. Try not to cue too much, because I was trying to coach somebody up on sprinting, and sprinting is definitely not my realm of expertise. And as I was coaching him up, I was doming myself up, and I'm like, okay, don't listen to anything that I say. Try to keep it cues a little bit more external than internal. It gives guys just like a goal to shoot for externally. Just like when we're swinging a bat, be like, hey, hit the ball at this part of the cage, versus like get your shoulder to this angle.
I love that. I love that you just
Yeah, one way is going to be a little bit more adaptive, and it's going to happen a little bit quicker, because now my goal is external versus like, okay, now I'm going to move a little bit slower because I want my shoulder to be like this at this point of contact. External cues tend to lead to like quicker, what's the word, like quicker proprioception, and just like letting, yeah, sure, and letting the athlete explore the movement on their own. Be like, hey, like I don't care where your body's at, just like achieve this goal. And then if you achieve this goal, it's like, okay, like then we can talk about like where we need to be.
we can talk
But
about
like
like
try,
why you achieved that goal, what changed in your
yeah,
swing and your
yep.
process. Man, I wish I could drop an F bomb, but I know that there's kids listening. But I freaking love that you just mentioned that a lot of the cues you give are hit the ball here, instead of like, you may know a kid um, gets his hands through too much, right? And he's hitting the ball the other way.
Sure.
Instead of trying to talk to him like, yo, brother, like with your hands, you need to do this. And then you like, you're doing this, but like, you need to do this. And then like a kid is so domed up, like he's thinking about all of
Yeah.
this and nothing else works right. The really good hitting instructors, and I cringe so much when I'm walking past the cage and someone's giving a lesson, and it's like we flip one ball, and then there's a 3-minute dissertation on what you need to do differently, and then we flip another ball.
Yeah.
The really great guys, and whenever I gave lessons, it would always be, I identify that this is what this kid's doing wrong or not doing. Well, here's a fix for it. Like, hey man, hit the ball right here, or
Mm-hmm.
give them a drill, explain what that drill is, what we're doing, because you
Yep.
know that's going to fix what they're doing wrong, whether that may be over exaggerating something, or whatever. But it's more often than not, I'll see kids have more success, and it just naturally fixes itself. I mean, I think I read
And they
somewhere,
figure it out for themselves too. It's
right?
not you telling them. It's just like, hey, I'm giving you the path. Just like let just go, just figure it out. And if you deviate from the path, I will get you back there with another drill. And it is my job as a coach to give you enough external cues, environmental cues, constraints to put you in to try to achieve the movement that I want to achieve. You, the coach, still have to understand where the body needs to be in space, but you also need to be self-aware enough to know that internal cues are not going to be the way that we get there. Because like now I tell a guy to dip his back shoulder because I want his back shoulder to be here. Well, now that affects everything else. Now that affects where my hands start. Now that affects where my eyes go. Like if I have a leg kick, now I'm going to be like, okay, like everything is connected. So giving a guy an external cue now like just focuses on, okay, I'm going to try to achieve and make an adjustment on where I want his body to be. And if we don't get there, I need to have another tool to get there.
Right. And I use the analogy, like, and you said tool, so it works really well. We're A plus of playing off on each other here. You want to have as many tools in the toolbox as possible as a coach, because if you got two kids that are doing the same thing wrong or need to be fixed in the same way, you could tell you tell both those kids to do this drill. They'll do it together. You don't tell them why you're doing it. You just tell them, do this drill, and we're aiming to hit the ball here. The first kid is great, and it fixes whatever needed fixed. But the second kid just not getting there. You got to have another drill to give them, to put them in that position to fix it. And I think that's where the knowledge of being a coach comes in, and the experience of being a coach comes in, but also, again, back to the relationship, like they got to trust you that, you know, and like one of my favorite things to do is like, with the harness that you could put on around your hips and put the elastic bands on, where if a kid is like leaking too far forward with his hips, you would think that, okay, I want to pull him back so he doesn't leak too far forward. When in reality,
no, I want to pull him more into it
because I want him to feel it, and then once he feels it, then he's like, oh, okay, like that's not good. And I was doing that, maybe not, obviously not as much in my normal swing, but this is how I was doing it. And then I think afterwards, once you give them that goal and they fix whatever it was that you wanted them to fix, that's when you kind of say, hey, so this is what I saw in your swing, and this is why I think it needed to change. This is what we did. And afterwards, then they can say, oh, okay. But in the 10 swings that they took, they weren't thinking, I need to do this with my hands. I need to do this with my feet. I need to do this. I need to do 100%. That. So I think that comes with just experience and knowledge and of the game. But I'm glad that we went down this path of.
I'm just a weights guy, but
I mean, you're still a baseball guy, but it all is the same in terms of like you're giving them a goal in mind instead of saying you need to do this, this, and this. And some kids you got to show, like some kids you need to take that video and you got to show. But if you do video with this kid, he is going to be so. I got to video every single swing, and then it's like. Kid takes a swing. Let me see the video. Kid takes a swing. Let me see the video. Hey, let me put this in slow motion. Let me put this in slow motion. It's like, all right, now you're what's the phrase? Analysis or paralysis by analysis, whatever. Yeah, and then that's not good either. It's so much you got to sprinkle in everything, and you got to have all the different ways to coach. But
the only time I've seen the video thing work, we had a big leaguer in the cage, and it was driving me up a wall. But probably the reason why he's going to be a Hall of Famer someday.
Are you going to name drop? Are you going to name drop, or I got to? Okay.
No. But I was just like, dude, like you are doming yourself up so much, and then I'm just thinking like, you know, way more about hitting than I ever will. So obviously not going to say anything, but it was just like, maybe that's why he's really good, because he's got that attention to detail. I'm not saying that works for everyone, and that definitely shouldn't be the the first tool to use. But again, another tool to be able to use
And
100%.
some people,
Video is good, but
some people are rigid,
to a
and
certain degree.
some people are visual learners. Again, like you talked
Yeah,
about,
yeah, that too. That too.
some kids need a fire under them. Some kids you got to pat on the butt. Everyone's a
Yep.
different learner. Like they have to feel it, they have to, or they have to see it. They got to hear it. Like everyone's different. So, um, one question I have is we talked a little bit about it earlier, and I wrote it down to go deeper in it, and then we got sidetracked.
Sure.
We talked about recovery.
Hmm.
When do you know it's time? Like it's too much, and I don't want to say injured versus being hurt, but like
Hmm.
when do you know your body is say like we don't have all the testing data that you do, and
Yeah.
when what are some signs that it's like I need to this week I really need to scale back because I'm actually going to hurt myself more than help
Sure.
myself because I'm so tired. Versus I'm going to scale back this week because I just don't feel like it, but I'm going to say it's because I'm tired.
Sure. So we talk about 6 week blocks. Every 6 weeks we have a deload week. So the goal is to, let's say, like baseline is here. I'm stacking stress over the course of the 6 weeks, and then on that 6 week, I'm going to be below baseline. I'm going to give my body a like total chance to recover, decrease total volume, decrease the skill work. And some guys hate that. Be like, I want to hit the gas pedal. I want to go. I want to go. There's a thing called a general adaptation syndrome, where as we continue to train, our body creates this like stress response, and when we train, we actually like physically get worse. So if we were to train the same amount the next day at the same intensity, our performance would definitely diminish. We would never do that, but just an extreme example there. So the goal is to now create that stress, give your body time to recover from the stress. So then our baseline is now higher than the original baseline. And we just do that over and over and over again and start to create this upward trend. Um, with that being said, again, it's not totally linear. We don't really have, we can't really like be in somebody's body, be like, I can't feel what you feel. So I don't really know. I would say, like, if you had a pretty bad night's sleep, 7 hours or less, um, we can scale back the training. We can take away some volume. We can take away some intensity, but we're still going to train. We still want to like go through those adaptations, um, but just scale it back a little bit. Times where we completely bang workouts are injuries, are like severe performance dips, um, like total lack of sleep, like 5 6 hours or less. Um, those type of things. It's really tough to know. And again, like the relationship with your athlete that you create, that's going to be important, because I can tell whether an athlete's tired or an athlete like is getting like burnt out or like needs a day or is just like not feeling it mentally. And he's usually like nails. Like you can tend to know like the persona of your athlete and like where they're headed, because I'm aware of their programs. I can look back, I know what they're doing. I could be like, oh damn, 3 days ago you did a lot. Okay, like we're gonna scale back today. Um, or like, hey man, like you're good. All your tests were good. You could just like not be feeling it today. If there's nothing structurally wrong, like let's get it. So it's tough line to draw. But again, back to the relationship thing, I think you need to know your athlete and know like, hey, this kid usually pushes himself pretty hard. He's not pushing himself. Let's go have a quick 2 3 minute conversation and then come up with a plan moving forward. Kind of how I do it. But I I don't want to bang anybody's workout. I want people to train. I want people to get after it. The the pushing his workout or moving his workout is like last resort.
So like say I'm on week 4 of my workout and
Sure.
I don't feel good. I've told you I don't feel good. I'm not hurt. I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know. We've referenced squats and deadlifts. So let's say
Sure.
I'm deadlifting today. And I'm supposed to be X amount of sets, X amount of reps at 85% max.
Sure.
Let's say I can't pull that weight.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be doing 5 sets of 5, and I'm doing 2 sets of 3, and then I get to the third set, and I can't freaking pull that weight.
Yeah.
You think it's better to say, all right, well, instead of doing 85%, let's go down and let's do 70%. You think
Yep.
getting the 5 sets of 5 is more important than doing the 85% of your weight? And I guess this matters with what you're training and what your goals are, but
Yeah.
would you say it's better to get in there and say we're doing 5 sets of 5 below the intended intensity, or
Yeah.
intensity matters?
Yeah. We can manipulate. Uh, we can manipulate 4 things. We can manipulate. I mean, I guess more than that, but I'm going to say 4 things. We can manipulate the amount of sets you can do. So if you have 5 sets of 5, we might do 4 sets of 5. We can manipulate the amount of reps each time. Okay, you have 5 sets of 5, we'll do 5 sets of 4. We can manipulate the intensity, which is okay, you're at 85%, let's go 75% or lower or whatever. Or if there's a like tempo to the work, let's say like you have a 3-second eccentric with your tempo work. Okay, we're just gonna bang the eccentric. You're just gonna do the movement at the same weight. Um, and you can manipulate the exercise also. So like if a guy's doing a back squat and he's not feeling it, but like he still wants to squat, okay, like we can move to the belt squat, we can move to a goblet squat. Um, just things that are going to require less load. So like total volume is going to decrease. Um, but yeah, there's lots of things that we can do. I'm going to promote training always. I don't want to skip a day
Get your ass in
if
the
you're
weight
not
room.
hurt, if you're not physically hurt, um, and I've told this to plenty of guys, like, hey, like just do your A and B block today, and then just get out of here. Um, there's a reason why we write programs A, B, C, D. The C and the D blocks are like more movement exploration, like tertiary things that aren't. I'm not gonna say not important, but are less important to the program than the A and the B block. That's why those exercises are put there. So hey, go do your A and B block. Go give me 100% of what you got, and then get out of here. Um, I do not want to. What's the word? I don't want to create a culture around. Oh, like I'm not feeling it. Like I'm just gonna bang it.
Yeah.
We're gonna do the work. I'm gonna work with you, but you got to work with me too.
I mean, I think it's the
So
slippery slope of, I mean, if we're going to relate it back to real life, if like for me, going to the gym and I've stopped lifting. Basically, I just do cardio now because
there we go.
at one point I was deadlifting 600 pounds and I was as strong as
Good for you.
I was as strong as I ever
Hell yeah.
was. I mean, it was hex bar, so it's cheating. At one point,
That's so impressive, man. You got to pull it off the ground.
but I was fat as hell and I was miserable. And then
Sure.
2 years later, I was 30 pounds down, but I was only doing cardio and I was running. And like, I felt better about everything. Right. So
Good. Yeah.
I've won away from cardio. But anyways, I'm, once you build that 2 weeks of a routine, I know that if one day I wake up and I'm like, I just really don't feel like going to the gym today, I'm in a danger zone of tomorrow.
Yep.
I wake up and I'm like,
Yep.
I don't feel that much better. Like I'm not going to go. And then 2 days turns
Yeah.
into 3 days. And then 3 days turns into
Yeah.
I'm eating double cheeseburgers at midnight again, and
You're making me hungry, man. You mentioned cheeseburgers multiple
I
times.
know. It's my go-to. But it's where when I didn't feel great, instead of going to the gym and trying to say, all right, well, I need to do 35 minutes on the treadmill and I need to go this far. If I feel like shit, just getting myself to the gym and
Just get there.
doing
Yeah.
everything I can that
100%.
day is gonna go is gonna be better in the long run than taking that day where I say, "Wow, I feel like shit," because, like you said, you're gonna develop that culture of it's okay to skip D and C and D on the workout because I'm not feeling great. We're like
Not every day.
we
That's
want
not the that's not
we
the
want to push through. We
prerequisite.
want to push through and
Yeah.
get through everything we can because that's the culture we want to build.
Yep.
Good. How do you address and a lot of the things that we still have left on this are things that we've already just talked about without intentionally
Yeah, I
just
bet we've talked about a bunch,
yeah,
but
we have.
we,
I mean,
cool.
just addressing need like obviously you mentioned earlier like sometimes kids just are better than other kids at younger ages because they're bigger, right? They're more developed. So, how do you develop strength programs or conditioning programs for kids that are just more mature than other kids at their age level or less mature, less
Yeah.
developed?
Yeah, that's something that
I guess you throw age out the window and you just say this is where you're at.
yeah. There's chronological age and there's biological age. Chronological age is from date of birth. Biological age is just like where you're at on the like maturity spectrum. Um, and you can get four different 12-year-olds in the room, and they're going to be at four different heights and four different weights, and their shoulder width's going to be different. So like I'm going to train the bigger kid a little bit differently than I'm going to train the smallest kid. That doesn't mean that like we're going to do goblet squats to infinity and all the other things still apply. Like there's still going to be more neural gains to have than not. We can just cater like his lifting a little bit heavier, a little bit more advanced if his movement is good. I'm going to assume that it is in this scenario. Um, but we can push his lifting to more like muscular and connective tissue and all of that development and have the neural gains as well. But just adding it a little bit more there. Yeah, so chronological age really isn't something that I'm going to take into consideration when I'm training an athlete. Like, how are you physically developed as a youth kid, and where do we start? That's kind of where I'm going to take the program.
So,
If that makes sense.
yeah, it does. And it goes right into like when should kids start lifting? Well, put it in air quotes, lifting heavy.
Yeah. What's heavy?
I mean, that's
$135.
the $1 million question. You're the professional,
Sure.
the expert here. Like, when do kids start getting in the gym, and when do the kids start putting weight on?
Yeah, like I said, like a lot of our youth kids are starting to lift. We're incorporating the squat, the hinge, the presses, the pulls, the things like that. Like we start incorporating that early on. So like when a guy does start biologically developing, movement is already been taken care of. We know how to squat properly. We know how to hinge properly. Form isn't an issue to where like now I can start pushing weight with good form. Um, so I'm going to throw out the answer. It depends again. Um, it's going to depend on biological age. It's going to depend on uh, the skill of lifting with the athlete. Because yes, it's not skill work, but squatting a lot of weight, deadlifting a lot of weight, um, definitely requires some sort of skill. And you could have guys that are at similar strength levels on certain, let's say the mid thigh pull. Let's say we have two guys that pull the same amount of weight, but one guy deadlifts more than the other, and that's just based on form. Um, anyways, I would say just like monitor how an athlete is progressing biologically. Peak weight velocity, basically just like how fast their weight is increasing. Peak height velocity, um, how much taller are they getting? Those are some things that you can track. And as guys are going through peak weight and peak height velocities, maybe that's time to start pushing a little bit more weight. Um, but yeah, man, it's going to depend on the athlete and where they're at biologically more so than anything.
So, and we touched on this a little bit earlier, so I imagine you will have to go super in depth. But just as a formality, I guess the kid that's a multi-sport athlete,
Yeah,
um, they're playing baseball in the spring, in the summer, and then the fall they're doing fall ball, but also doing football, and then in the winter doing basketball. How do you set a training schedule for that high school kid, like in the weight room, in terms of developing there? And workload is a big issue. Um,
yeah,
are we training for football? Are we doing football lifts? Are we doing baseball lifts? Are they different? Are they the
yeah.
same? Just talk a little bit about that, because I think it's one of the big questions or things that we
Yeah,
deal with in the baseball world.
I would say it's tough to talk about football because of the like physical beating that athletes go through.
Well, not
Um,
me. I just sat on the sidelines, but most athletes, yes.
um, typically, like basketball, baseball. I typically want to be lifting post game if I can.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm prioritizing things that I'm not getting in the sport. Strength is always going to be a thing. Um, so making sure like volume's really low, intensity is really high, so we're not getting sore, so that we can like physically bounce back. That takes preparation in the off seasons and a consistent amount of time lifting. So making sure you're talking to a strength coach and being like, okay, like I have a basketball game Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. So my lift days this week are going to be Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday post game. I'm going to make sure that if I'm still trying to train for baseball, I'm going to do some like rotational stuff. I'm probably going to limit the amount of sprinting and plyometric work that I'm doing because I'm getting a lot of that when I play basketball. Um, I'm going to prioritize strength and power. I'm going to keep the volume pretty low, probably an A and a B block, and I'm going to beat it. When I'm in season, the volume needs to be low and intensity needs to be high. Just so we're not losing strength, we're not losing power, but I'm not sore from my workouts so that I can continue to perform in my games. Um, I think that's yeah, that's the gist of that. And again, like when I'm training other sports and playing other sports, like nutrition, hydration, like all of those things, like staying on top of those um, will allow you to recover and be able to bounce back.
That's a lot of information. And however, I had to stop and obviously reset because we got cut off earlier. But normally I've got like a timer running that shows how long I've been recording. But just this session's been an hour, and I imagine
Wow.
we're probably at an hour and 30, hour and 45. But I mean
Yeah.
don't worry. I've had longer. I've had shorter. Just
Good.
I'm just saying, like, that's so much information in such a short amount of time. And obviously I couldn't go much deeper into
Sure.
a lot of that. But I think just to sum up some of what you said, get in the weight room,
Yep.
get strong,
Yeah.
lift weights, move. You want to be explosive.
Yeah.
You want to you can't just be strong and not explosive, and also
Yep.
reach your peak exit velocity. It's all got to go hand in hand, right? Like we're
Yeah.
what's the saying about like high tide raises all the boats or something? Like basically
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you gotta train everything, because if you're deficient in one area, it's gonna hold you back in all the other areas.
Yeah.
Um, you need to get, like, you want to promote movements with kids. You think at a younger age, promoting
Yeah.
those movements and promoting good form on lifts is gonna be more beneficial than waiting till a kid's 16 and hit puberty to get in the weight room and start.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
when you build that base and that foundation, it's going to take you further down the road. You don't have to spend time learning that good foundation of
100%.
here's what a hip hinge is. Also, side note, I can do a hip hinge really well. I don't understand. It's one of those things that, like, as a coach, you try to explain to kids and you show them and you try to get them to do a good hip hinge. I don't understand why the hip hinge is so hard of a movement.
Me too. Me too.
It's one of those
Push your
things.
butt back and come back up.
It's one of those things where I don't get frustrated. Like, frustration is the enemy of teaching, right? Like,
For sure.
I don't
For
get
sure.
frustrated when I'm trying to teach kids to do things because I understand that the body works and the brain works the way it works. So
Yeah.
trying to get them to do something is it's not always gonna work like that.
Yeah.
But with the hip hinge, when you're trying to like just coach a hip hinge, because it's probably one of the most important things that we have to master, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so hard to get kids to hip hinge correctly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what you got some special sauce? Like, what do you push your butt back and big chest, pinch
Hey,
your scaps,
sure.
touch the wall with your butt?
Yeah, those are all good. Again, external cues are important.
Like
Very big.
their knees are getting parallel with the ground. Like some kids, you know what I mean? Like when you're trying to get them to do it, and it's like
Yeah.
they're bending their knees so much as they're going down. It's like, yo, you want to try and keep your knees over your knees over your heels, not
Yeah. Yeah.
or I
Yeah.
should say their shins are getting parallel with the ground. It,
Oh yeah. 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 We don't want that.
yeah, yeah, but that's some of the stuff they do. It's
um.
like, no, we don't. That's bad. It's just
Yeah.
so hard. It's one of those things that I have not figured out a good way to get kids to do it that don't do it well.
I'll throw like a broomstick like back here. So
Yeah.
like on my back, I'm holding a broomstick there, and I'm telling the kid like, okay, keep all the tension on the broomstick. Like I want your back on the broomstick the whole time, your whole entire back. Now I want you to push your butt back towards the back wall while keeping all of that tension with the broomstick. That's a good one. For a single leg, I'll wrap a band around opposite shoulders, and I'm trying to like push. You can't really see all of me right now, but imagine the band around my left shoulder to my right foot on that single leg, and I'm telling the kid to push that bottom foot back and then push that left hip back towards the back wall. Again, but just like creating that tension for them kind of allows them to like just move correctly with that constraint. Typically, I won't tell them too much with the broomstick other than, okay, keep all the tension on the broomstick, push your butt back towards the wall. I'll tell them to put the band around and be like, okay, do a single leg RDL and kind of see what like allow their movement to help me with their cues.
Yeah,
So
that's fair.
it's a tricky thing that like I don't know. I've always been good at deadlifting. It never really was taught to me. And like you said, frustration isn't the wrong word. It's just like curiosity around why don't you know how to do this?
Right.
you,
But
you know?
that leads to the frustration because it's like this seems like such a simple, and
Sure.
again, it's maybe one of the only things that I get frustrated with when trying to like help kids be better with it is the hip hinge, because it's for the people that can do it, it's so simple. It's like what
Yeah.
you don't bend over at the, like, you don't fold over like this at the waist, like and your knees shouldn't wobble and your shin shouldn't be
Yeah.
parallel with the ground. Like, why can we not understand this? That's the only thing that's like, why on God's green earth can we just not do a hip hinge? Like, what is so hard about this? And obviously you can't say that to a kid because then that's just demoralizing. But like in your head, you're like, brother, are you that?
Yeah.
You are a 2x4. Like, you are. We need to go take some yoga. By the way, I love yoga. I don't know how you feel about yoga and
Oh,
sport specific yoga.
again, the movement exploration stuff. I think like should yoga be a key cog in a baseball player's like program? I would argue no. But like, if it makes a guy feel good and like he's in the big leagues and he's like, I do yoga once a week and he throws really hard, like, who am I to tell him not to do that?
Right.
Again, like everything in moderation.
Even moderation.
Huh?
Everything in
Even
moderation.
moderation.
Even moderation.
Even moderation.
Sometimes,
Yes, 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 yes.
I mean, it's a good diet. You want to have a cheat meal, right? Like, it's
100%.
in the long run, it's good for
100%.
you. Like, I believe
Yeah.
everything in moderation, even moderation. Sometimes you gotta let it eat, and you gotta let it loose, and you gotta just go. You know what I mean? If you just live, everything is moderation. Like, it's a little, it's a
100%.
boring life. So, all right.
Oh yeah.
Comstock, you've been awesome today. We got to end today with we are the ATL Lightning. So
Okay.
I developed a lightning round.
Oh no.
It's just
Oh no. All right.
short, fast, quick questions. Totally
Okay.
irrelevant.
Let's hit it. Let's
But
hit
it's
it.
fun stuff.
Okay.
Do you put pineapple on pizza?
Yes.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No.
It's a big baseball question that like people that don't follow baseball, like they don't understand. But like if you've been on a bus,
I don't know what to classify a hot dog, but it's definitely not a sandwich.
well, people that tell you that it is a sandwich, they would ask you what a sandwich is, and you would tell them meat between two pieces of bun, and they say, "Well, so was a hot dog a sandwich?"
So is a hot dog. Ah, good point.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I
So
don't know. It depends.
it's a mental like just mind game. You have any
All
pregame
right.
superstitions?
I always went left sock, right sock because I'm left-handed. Even though I threw right-handed, I don't know. Left sock, right sock.
You hit left-handed?
No, no. My dad was a jerk and taught me how to swing right-handed.
Goodness, what's your favorite Gatorade
Nah.
flavor?
The Gatorade Zero Frost. It's so good.
Yeah, Gatorade Zero is
It's
where
like
it's at.
I think it's glacier. It's either glacier cherry or the frost flavored.
Mm-hmm. What color is it?
Yeah,
That's how.
it's like white
Yep.
but clear.
Yep.
Yeah,
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 it's the cherry one. That's how we identify
yeah.
on this podcast. We don't do flavors, we do colors.
Oh, okay, cool.
Um, favorite sunflower seed flavor?
I'm vanilla, man. I just like the salt and pepper. What was? It's not Biggs. What's
David?
Not David either.
The other one. No, I don't know the other one actually. I need to probably.
Yeah, but they have a bunch of flavors, but just like salt and black pepper. That was my flavor.
Doesn't your mouth get all weird and stuff when you do salt and pepper?
Yeah, but whatever.
It's worth it. Big Green Monster or Chicago Ivy?
Monster. Just because I hate Ivy.
Who's your favorite baseball player?
I grew up watching Barry, man. It's got to be Barry. It's just so much fun to watch him hit homers every other night.
Should he be in the Hall of Fame?
I don't know, man.
It's a yes or no question.
I don't know. Based on his statistics, absolutely.
So are you letting in all the steroid users?
If their statistics were good enough to be in the Hall of Fame, yeah.
I think steroid voting should, or not steroid voting. I think Hall of Fame voting should go based upon your how you did against your.
Not advocating for bringing steroids back.
No, but
there was an era in baseball where
we needed it. They brought life back to the game. But I think if we're talking about Hall of Fame voting, how you did against your peers is how you should be remembered because the game changes.
Sure.
I mean,
yeah, 100%.
The statistics for today's NBA players are through the roof, and they're way better than a lot of old school NBA guys because the game was different.
Yeah,
and
100%.
If Babe Ruth played today, what level would he reach?
That's a good question. I think if you drop Babe Ruth in like today's game, I don't think he does very well. If Babe Ruth was born in today's game, I think he does well.
That's the
if
best.
That makes any sense.
No, you 100% because it's very different between dropping him in today or growing up in today's culture
or growing up in today's game,
and knowing like what chugging 2 beers in between every inning does for you. It's totally different. So you think he had the talent where he would have succeeded in today's game?
Yeah. Like, does he hit 714 homers? Who knows? But like,
because he was hitting 84 mile an hour fastballs.
you can't knock him for playing against his
It's not
competition.
not his fault.
Like, not his fault.
That's
No.
why I think you should be judged against your peers. And Barry Bonds was probably going to be a Hall of Famer whether he took steroids or not. And he, there was everyone else that was taking steroids and whatnot. So, I mean, that's a loaded question. And that's actually the first. That's
sure.
actually the first time I've ever asked the Babe Ruth question. But I don't know why it came up. You start talking about Barry Bonds, and I remember having this debate with people about Babe Ruth. But
I like it.
Are you pro or anti-shift?
I'm a hitter at heart, so I am anti-shift. But I also was a catcher, and I loved the shift when we got the extra out. So.
Yeah. I mean, 17 and under travel baseball, I put shifts on left and right. I love it, and you should, like, at that age, you should see like what it does to the opposing kid's swings. Oh, it's so funny that a kid that, like, we shift him the pole, and then all of a sudden he's swinging like, he's lefty, like swinging like. Just do this, and it's like then it's like, oh, he did that this time. Hey, we're gonna go fastball under the hands right here. It's so fun.
Yep.
Adam Sandler or Vince Vaughn?
Sandler. I have to go with Sandler, but both have
both are great
movies.
Yeah, I mean,
both are great.
I mean, you got to ask two icons, right? You can't ask two, a known guy versus a scrub. It's got to be.
That's a good point.
That's not interesting. So. Comstock, this was fun.
Man.
I'm not gonna lie, I was a little intimidated when you sent me that that outline.
That was more so for me, man, because
that was awesome. I mean,
I said it earlier. I'm not dumb. I'm just stupid. So if I didn't write all
I love
my
that.
thoughts down on,
I love that.
I would talk in circles forever and not get to the point. So,
I mean, I got you to talk in circles a little bit today. So I mean, I think it's beneficial staying, close to an outline, but also being not so rehearsed and
it should be organic. It should be a conversation.
100% or organically. And some baseball guys, I'll ask, like coaches, I'll ask them what they want to talk about, and they're like, I don't know, man, just press record, and then we go on and we talk. Like baseball guys are like, it's just that's the way they do it sometimes. And I mean, I told Chico, like, the organic conversation always ends up being the best, even if it's about a topic 100%. That someone's not really interested in. But like, if you're, if people can hear and feel the passion in your voice, and it happens organically, and it just, the listen is great. So hopefully people got smarter today. Hopefully they learned some stuff. I know I learned some stuff. I know I had things that were validated, and, I enjoyed listening to you talk about it, and I appreciate you coming on and talking with us and taking the time.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Thanks for having me, and hopefully we can do it again sometime.